pretty here. We've got 2 more games to go, and to be completely frank with you, I'm actually really excited about this one. Kanga surprised us with some of the new boys from down under.
Definitely, but I see this being either a good one, and I do this often. I think it's going to be a good one, or I think Navi could smoke Kanga. And I say that from a place of love. I love my boys, but I feel like a team like Navi, the caliber that they're at, when they get beat like they got beat yesterday, that's kind of like you get smoked in the face a little bit. You got to, fix the tie, get the jacket squared up, and then go to work today. And that's what makes me a little bit scared for Kanga.
Puff up a little bit for him.
Yeah. We got a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, absolutely they do. And it was actually, nice to kind of hear from both sides. Kanga, I honestly, when they were doing their interview, I felt a little nervous for the boys. They were like, Chronix was up there like, I have to hold up these teams. I'm the one in charge now all of a sudden.
Anytime you're saying, we're going to give it our best shot, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence from you. We saw that same answer come from Armada, and we know how that set went. Navi are nearly the caliber of team of Fnatic. I would put Kanga a little bit over, but Armada, so that's why I think this could be a good game. It is going to have to be a massive step up from a lot of these boys here on Kanga Esports.
I mean, how about Ninum?
Yeah, I mean,
how about the boy?
Frankly, I'm not too worried about him after what I saw earlier today.
And Chronix, of course, has always been a staple
pretty clutch
of good
pretty
gameplay.
Clutch when he's on Cassie.
Yes.
That's what I'm worried about. The depth of his champion pool is a little bit of a question mark for me. He smokes people on Cassie all day long, but what else is there?
Right.
And talking a little bit to Ninum, I was like, what else is in the pool? We see the Leon, we see the Buck. That's all great. That was kind of like
Drogo's
secondary. And he said that was actually what I was brought primarily on to play. That's where I am actually most comfortable. So we'll have to see as we get into this Navi set if he ends up finding himself on a Willow, a Drogo's, a Bomb King.
They're going to have it because Navi was so good at it. We did have a chance to talk with Navi to see how they were feeling after yesterday coming in today. Let's take a look to see what they had to say. Well, we got Lazy and Phoenix with us. And Phoenix, I need to start with you. We heard that yesterday you weren't feeling so great. A lot of smiles and a lot of jokes being passed. So are you feeling better today?
I'm feeling much better today. Just a little flu coming by me. Just feeling sick for yesterday. I'm just happy to be back the way I am, just goofing around.
Kevin, I know this is your first event in about 6 months now, and in times past you've been known to get a little nervous. Are you still feeling that way now come at this event, having not been here for so long?
I mean, I'm a point tank now, so there's not much
pressure, baby.
Right now. Nope, there's
Just
nothing
sit
there.
there and get my butt whooped.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Now, coming in, obviously, after yesterday, it was a tough set versus Fnatic. You have some chance to at least establish redemption to start off today. It seems like you guys are still in pretty high spirits. Have you guys shrugged that one off, kind of learned and come back ready to go today?
I think straight after we kind of figured out our mistakes straight away, and I just walked back into the room. I'm saying I'm not ending a LAN with a 0% win rate Tyra. It's not happening. So then we cheered up, and we're gonna just have one win with Tyra at least. That's all we need.
Oh man, he actually did that. He walked. We were like kind of sad, and it's like we didn't talk with each other yet. And then when he came home, like came in the door, he was like super happy, like, we're not gonna have as high as 0% win rate. It's like, okay, so that's how it's gonna be then.
So were you guys dissecting that match between G2 and Fnatic? Because G2 obviously were able to beat them. Do you feel that it was just a really good day for G2, or did they have something that maybe Europe hasn't seen yet that was able to dismantle Fnatic?
Kind of both, as in like Fnatic probably saw like what they played already before. I just think they failed to adapt to it fast, like on the spot, and G2 also had a really great day to begin with.
All right, well, we're expecting to see some Tyra off the gate, so let's get it going. Good luck in the game. We'll catch you guys later.
Thank you.
Okey-doke.
Now, do we really think we're going to see Tyra out the gate?
I don't know, man. There has been a little bit of propensity to pick up the Inara today, and that's a tank that she is a little bit effective against. It's about the flankers from Kanga Esports. Now, Chronix had a good performance on Brightmarsh, on Xin, as well as we saw it was a really weird 19-12 game or something like that on Frog Isle. It didn't feel like the Buck was being super impactful, but that's now 2 flankers that these Kanga boys can play. So the Tyra obviously very susceptible to that, and I think the only reason we saw it come out in the first place is because both teams in that game on Splitstone had very low mobility compositions.
Yeah, it was a Barrick Inara that he was going up against, and there was a Cassie Leon that was also in the mix, so that's obviously a consideration when you look forward. But all jokes aside.
Yeah. It can work.
It can work.
Victor can work.
Absolutely. We just haven't seen it happen yet. We're all waiting for it. We're ready to see it happen. who knows how we go. Again, this is just a best of 3. So, again, if Na'Vi stumble out the gate, it could very easily be a demise for them, but flip-flop the conversation. Kanga, you would think, would want to come out and try to hit them in the jaw right off the bat because they're not going to get a lot of time to adjust to this Na'Vi squad.
No, definitely not. And that's where I always give the advantage to the more experienced team, is the one that can make the advantages or the adjustments on the fly a little bit quicker. Bright Marsh, have to say, though, it was a great game from Kanga and their set earlier. This will be Na'Vi's first games today as well. Obviously, Kanga not playing 2 in a row, but there is a little bit of a conversation around that when you do get a couple under your belt in the rooms on land that day, whereas Na'Vi will be coming in cold to this set.
Buck and Khan, first 2 taken away. Not a surprise, as they are the 2 most banned champions so far in 2 days. Expect to see more of the same throughout the rest of the weekend. But it really, for me, on Brightmarsh comes down to, again, the conversation of do you want to stack the point or do you want to establish control outside of the point? That seems to be where a lot of, if you commit to one or the other, you will usually be more successful than kind of sitting in that gray area of we don't really know which we want to go for.
Willow's taken off the board as well. Kanga very highly prioritizing Furia in their past set, whereas Na'Vi is not something we've seen from really any PPL team thus far. That is something that Na'Vi could use against Kanga, just the innate predictability, knowing that they are really, really looking out for this healer.
And, even seeing the 4 teams yesterday going up against each other into watching Fnatic play Armada, it is very interesting to see how well kind of tailored these PPL teams when it comes to playing up against these picks that are quote-unquote overpowered. They don't seem to care so much about the Fury because they know how to play up against it. It allows them all that extra freedom in their draft.
So the question here is Makoa plus what? Makoa and Nara, Makoa Cassie, Makoa Fernando even are 3 possible combinations I could see coming out from Kanga. And I think it's more about what Joel's is going to be comfortable playing in the off-tank position, if anything. I know Rhino will most likely be taking the Makoa, but Joel's could also be taking that if they end up going for the Inara and they want to put Rhino on the more point tank-centric. But Kanga, stumped maybe? I don't know. There's a lot of decisions to be made here.
Yeah, the Makoa is hard to pass up, although this is interesting. I actually think that this is a true tell sign of Na'Vi and not picking Makoa first. Makoa right now on the weekend, 2-8. Banned 12 times, but only 2-8. I think it really goes to show that you have to have that star-studded performance on Makoa to make him effective.
They're definitely looking to draft around him. I think any team that lets Makoa go through with the realization that we are not getting it, it's because they have a very well-structured plan around it that they feel is near foolproof.
And Makoa was played by Fnatic in the game that Na'Vi won. On this map at Brightmarsh, we saw Drogo, Sonara, Furia, Buck, and Leon. We're getting 3 of the same so far with the Drogos, Leon, and the Inara to start things off. So maybe that is the well-cultured and just kind of ready to play up against this Makoa comp for Na'Vi.
Leon normally operating out of hook range, Drogos above hook range, Inara doesn't care. Damba and Nanda will come through for Kanga, I gotta say. It is strong picks for the boys, for the lads, for the gents. Out of down under. Na'Vi will likely have Mutu on this Drogos, Leon. More than likely for Phoenix, depending on how the rest of this composition rounds out. If it's a second tank, Phoenix will pick up arms as that. If not, he will be playing the Leon.
Now, do you see a potential for Genos Xin to come out and just running a solo Inara into this, or is that not enough?
Well, they've hovered both so far.
Yeah. Xin first. They have to. I mean, there has to be some kind of a support.
Need a creatives pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Genos would make sense here. Just looking at the combination, that is what it will be. So that should be a very, I mean, again, the Genos putting on pressure, and if it is a Yomi Xin.
Not flavor of the month, but I still love the combination.
It's hard-hitting for sure.
I still like it. I still think it's really, really solid. Really high margin for error as well for Na'Vi to get a little information, move around the map. Creatives can be pretty free-flowing with this. I'm feeling really good about both of these drafts.
Same.
The biggest question mark for me is just how Kanga will perform with this Bomb King, because we haven't seen it yet from them. We only saw the Buck Leon coming from that newest member so far.
Yeah, and I think that this will be the true telltale sign. Can Ninem really pull it out and show off the fact that he can play Bomb King and these blasters? It's going to be a very important aspect to have if they want to have some longevity in this tournament. They've got a tough test here. Let's send it over to the casting booth to see how Game 1 turns out.
Hey everyone, time to hop into game number 1 of Na'Vi versus Kanga. Tigers here with Gormizer. Are you ready?
I'm excited for this one. I feel like this is, again, there's like one of two outcomes. Either Kanga is going to have such a stellar performance and is going to be incredibly close, or Na'Vi is going to do Na'Vi things.
I like the logo. It even has the kind of shadow back version. The big kangaroo looking over the little kangaroo.
I feel like they're the ones who need Drogos. We were talking about his punch
Right.
potentially having been a high five in the past, but every time he high fived someone, they just fell over dead. So now it's an anger.
And that's
instead.
why it's Fury. No more
Dragons
Dragons Euphoria. It turned to Fury as people couldn't handle his high fives. It's a sad life, everybody. It's a sad life. But here we go. Best of 3, so potential to be really quick if one of these teams wants to just mow it on out. But speaking of the Drogos, Mutu has been looking great on this over the split.
And Hot Swap is really the card that I think has been stylized specifically for him. A lot of Drogos players have picked it up, but it's just getting that reload speed, having that ability to just increase your DPS. You're firing a lot more often. You're never going to have as much downtime, and I think that's what's made him just so much more deadly, especially when you get something like that.
Even if you don't get the kill right away, look at the way he just halved their HP and they couldn't have any opportunity to move in towards the actual objective. There's your first blood. Mutu getting that onto Joel's as Na'Vi continue to push up on this point, 51% and climbing.
Creative's having a little dance on the side, trying to find a couple of kills, but distracting 2 people. Now going to be able to get rid of Nim. Looking like he might be able to find Rhino as well. All he needs is a couple more hits, but again, playing it safe, not getting too aggressive. Phoenix maybe in an awkward position, but now it's a 2v2, and honestly, they have the health bar advantage.
Forced out in a way that allowed him to heal, and now he's just back to it. Does get punished by Nudie, but no matter what, Na'Vi still managed to capture. And I think Creatives was very aware of that. He said, that's fine. If you two want to focus on me, even if you get the kill, my team is focusing on what matters.
I mean, with him and Phoenix walking over there, a lot of members of Kanga, I think 3 or 4, decided to turn all of their attention over to the side fight, where there's 2 members that they know they can kill. But the problem is, again, like you said, yeah, kill me. Now go ahead. I'm just going to let my team stand on the objective that you're completely ignoring, and we're going to be able to grab that and start our push. We get a little bit more aggression. You have to fall back. We're going to start picking up those kills, even though we traded somehow.
And it's been Lazy's job to try and babysit this payload. Got chunked down quite low and forced to back off. Creatives with the double kill, though. In the meantime, Phoenix picking up 1, which will leave an opening for Na'Vi to push through after that team wipe, looking mighty pretty.
Now, it's just going to be a little bit, you can see moonwalking Cassie having to go back to the base the hard way. And with the way things are going, I mean, Kanga are going to be coming back. And Cassie's one of the bigger pickups they needed overall for all of this. It's just one of those very specific picks. It's not going to be Chronix running it, so Ninim not having the same effect that we've seen out of her earlier.
Ultimates coming out. Dread Serpent right into that side passageway. Drogos landing overhead. Doesn't hit anybody with that punch, but gets a new vantage point with that 30% back onto it. And lineman Phoenix takes out Nim Nim. And now it's time.
And this is probably my favorite pathing you can take as Drogos. Some people don't expect it, and it's sometimes a little bit too late when you do decide to finally look at the dragon being able to come around to the back line, getting a lot of damage. Na'Vi are looking to walk that in, no problem.
No one could make it through, and Spunky with the double kill right there in the end. You saw mid-push where a couple people had died, but they were very purposeful on Na'Vi, so even the couple kills in the favor of Kanga didn't seem to work out. And these slices from Creatives are just great.
Everything they've been doing, a lot of distraction factor really from Na'Vi, where it's just they separate, but they have a bunch of champions that work incredibly well on their own. I mean, Zen can take in a fight where it's a 1v1, a 1v2, and still escape if things don't go his way. And most of the time they go his way. Creatives has been playing it really well, 4-1-1 as of right now. And then Phoenix, as well as Mutu. Mutu applies the damage, gets some half health. Phoenix comes in, cleans him up. The slash lines are looking really good. Na'Vi have been doing pretty much exactly what they need to be able to keep themselves in control of every objective throughout the game. Which
has also led to a lack of itemization for Kanga Esports because of the very non-present credit generation. 30% for Na'Vi. Mutu taking a similar pathing to prior through time and space right down the center of that objective. Gets a good clip onto the Mako from Bar, who does activate the Ancient Rage. One more swing. Take out Phoenix and turns his sights over to the Sonara, but Lazy's just hopping around with his full HP.
And that's one of those moments where you realize how awkward, I guess, your ult really feels. You're swinging, you're smacking him down, and on any other champion, it's probably going to be doing a ton. Nara just shrugs it off. Full health after that entire engagement, is still able to walk away from it. Very happy as Lazy now actually repositioning. Maybe not in the best spot, but still going to have a lot of control, and now's the seismic crash.
Seismic crash that ended up not being necessarily needed, but Ninim ends up going down immediately after. Creatives with a double kill as well. Just great contributions from the team.
You didn't need it. but you looked damn good doing it.
Yeah. It was still really nice. Very nice to see. 87% for Na'Vi, and this is looking good for another capture for them. They get the 3-0 so far and pushing through for a potential 4-0.
And this is kind of the route I feel like you would expect. Again, 4 out of 5 of these guys are world champs right now. They won the last LAN that we had here. So being able to come into this and picking up Lazy, they've looked incredible since. They seem to have a lot of control, and they don't seem too worried about so far what Kanga's thrown out at them.
And the last LAN, they also didn't win during the PPL finals, but went on to win the entirety of that Master LAN. Now here in the summer, they can potentially do the same thing. So they're no strangers to just shrugging off a loss and then working through the next round with ease.
And in some ways, I feel like it's kind of a benefit to not win on Wednesday for yesterday, just because to win there, I feel like you have to go a little bit more into your playbook. Right here, Na'Vi, I mean, they're just playing the same things Na'Vi's been playing the entire online split. There's nothing too fresh, nothing too out of the ordinary, which means any pocket picks they might have picked up overall in the off time is still going to be hidden for them.
Dragon Punch tries to find the closest target, gets hooked. Jules with the kill onto Mutus. And all right, I'm going to have to reset after that one. Dread Serpent thrown out downtown. 1:20 on the clock as Kratos repositions himself to get that last slash onto Rhino. But Nanim picks one up onto Lazy.
Now just trying to position themselves, figure out where they want to go. The world not going to be enough. Nanim going to be able to kill off creatives as well. And that's going to be a good pushback from Kanga, actually forcing the retreat from Natus Vincere. But it's still in this area where it's not going to stop them completely. A minute left. The payload's still in a comfortable spot in terms of being able to close it out, so it's not quite over yet.
Not a lot of ultimates on either end. A couple right on the cusp for Kanga as 95% for that Ancient Rage. Scout just came back up. Here's the Seismic Crash. And maybe can capitalize upon that. Mutu standing a little more towards the back at this time, just trying to associate that damage from afar so the rest of the team can clean up.
Just being able to get a lot of good shots. There's a through time and space, which kind of puts Joel's out into an awkward spot. Doesn't find a kill just yet. But look at the low health bars. A lot of healing is going to be necessary for Kang to keep going. But they did manage to take out 2 members on Na'Vi.
It was a great hook onto Phoenix to just bring him to his demise rather. Final 15 seconds before that overtime settles in. Jules is back up in HP, but getting chunked down slowly, so has to reposition. Sees, generally speaking, where Mutu is, who's fallen low himself, and find some safety.
This is kind of similar overall to the path that we saw Kanga take earlier, although now the overtime going to be taking through. This is where things can diverge, even though they had such a good defense. That's 2 picked up from Mutu, and he's still looking to press the gas pedal.
Yeah, they're looking to zone in on this one, even use the spite, and moving forward, this double kill from Mutu is one way to set the foundation for a potential good fight. Dread Serpent also thrown from the defensive side, though, as Nudie picks up a kill onto Creatives.
Now just looking for the last couple of hits onto this Cassie, trying to get rid of it, but Nimnim's still alive under that shield. A lot of damage towards the tail end, but still not enough to tick through the death. You lose Mutu, you lose Spunky, and you have Phoenix doing his best, standing around.
A committal, and there's Phoenix with the kill, but using that ultimate in the end, and Kanga gets the defense?
It's a little curious.
Yeah,
but
I think they got a little...
He gets the kill, so he's going to retain 50%, so he's going to still have it, and he's relatively
all
fast charging.
ultimates,
I was going to say, of all the
yeah.
ones to use at the end, I think that's the one that I'd be happiest to see. Like a Dragon Punch there feels terrible if you don't get the push. Being able to hold on to some of these going into this next round. Again, Kanga, similar to what they did earlier where it looks pretty good overall in defense after a relatively rough start. This is where they could turn things around. They have comeback mechanic, a lot of things going in their favor. And I'm going to put a lot of pressure. Chronix as well as Nimnim have to have a better round right now than they've had pretty much the entirety of the game.
And I think a portion of that, Na'Vi got kind of impatient towards the end, but now they know that they can win it on this point, so they're not holding anything back. 21% climbing so far. Have a couple of those ultimates back in recharge. Already 70% on this Enlightenment.
And with the way that they're holding onto this, you can see like Dragon's Punch, Seismic Crash, nothing getting used until they know they need to use it. Now they're going to be going for the kill, and that has to be a Makoa target.
But he's just circling around in the meantime. Couldn't find the eye that he was looking for, so finds himself in a similar position to what he was prior. 70% for Kanga Esports right now as Na'Vi attempt to keep pulling this back. Phoenix with the Enlightenment gets that hit onto Ninim and is looking for another on the Nando. A few more chunks should do it, but he gets chunked down himself.
Gonna get taken down. Kanga are standing on the objective. No one on Na'Vi went in there. Lazy fell down a little bit earlier on, so now Kanga gonna be able to capitalize on that comeback mechanic, take that point away, and with the way things are going, like you said, it seems a little bit more frantic, a little bit sloppier from Na'Vi. It seems like they're rushing into the fight. They're trying to win, but they aren't trying to group up and actually take this the way that we've seen so far in the first couple rounds.
Whereas Kang, on the other hand, right now, are still trying to keep up with this aggression, using that Dread Serpent pretty immediately after the capture. And I think that's a good sign since they know, oh, we're getting a little bit of momentum right now. Let's try to follow through with it. And they got a few kills in the process, but now Mutu Creatives, they're tired of dying. They're coming back to it. Spite used a double kill for Mutu, and Na'Vi are slowing this.
Just the longest stagger that they could have. Fernando going to take a long time to actually get respawned right there. And so that's going to buy him a lot of time, 1.5 minutes left on the clock. And that's just one of those strategies to make sure it's a little bit more difficult. He does have Master Riding, so we will see Rhino getting back a little bit quicker than some of the other members of Kanga. And Chronic's taking that fight there. Not exactly what he expected.
And now, minute 20 on the clock. Na'Vi just 1 point away from putting it home, but Kanga 2 points in quick succession. Phoenix gets his kill onto Rhino. And it's this slowdown where, yes, Kanga, good effort for immediately out of the gates attempting to get the push, because that early part, getting out of those entryways to the capture, can be one of the most difficult portions, and they put a great effort in trying to dissuade anything in that aspect, but Na'Vi, they just easily stepped into this defensive role.
And it's just that area where once you lose that momentum that you were carrying, you're kind of looking at, well, 3-2, we're going to go 3-2 more than likely into the next round unless we get something phenomenal. But the way Na'Vi are cleaning up this fight right now, I expect Kanga are looking at that wait period for the next 30 seconds. They're going to be looking at half a comeback mechanic, something that will assist them, but you still have to play clean. And I think that's been the biggest issue is when you can play clean, you're looking phenomenal. But you have to keep that up consistently against a team like Na'Vi.
And I think that right now what you do is the remaining ultimates that you're waiting on, which is only one at this point, do your best to charge it up so that you can go in with full force during the next time. Na'Vi losing a few at this moment, but still, hey, Payload went all the way back to its starting position and has a long journey to go. But maybe you can get Na'Vi to use some of their ultimates at least.
5 seconds in overtime, the dream can live.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not the best dream to have, but you can hope for the best. Again, a couple of kills just kind of staggered out. This payload will move a lot faster than you think if you are on the side of Na'Vi looking for the defense. So 5 ults available. Will any of them get used in the meantime?
We've seen a lot of people push it pretty far when they're at overtime pretty much at the beginning of that push. As far as conversion in the end goes, hasn't always been that great, but you can still get the value, whether it's right now getting kills. Kanga end up losing force, so Na'Vi secure this defense. But credits are very important to gain, charges on ultimates. If you can bait out some of the ultimates from your enemy team because they feel threatened enough, all good things to try and get out of that situation before going into the next round.
There's just an example of cleanup. That was essentially the start of what became a solid defense from Na'Vi. There was one point where they really had to retreat, and again, when there's 5 seconds left, they're going into overtime. You having to retreat's not the worst thing in the world that's happening in the game. You're definitely going to feel the impact of that more on the other side than you are as the defender, just going back, setting up a different defensive line, and now coming into this, again, all 5 ults charged for everyone in this game. So Kanga going to be able to come into this. If they can use that properly, that might make the biggest difference. Specifically, that Ancient Rage and the King Bomb making a huge play.
That 15 streak, 4-1-33 is the man Spunky on Na'Vi. Such a prime support player. Also made an appearance in y'all's All-Star Draft. We're talking about Hekate, how he had made that appearance as well. But here's lots of ultimates right off the bat. Chronix picks up the kill onto Lazy, a Dragon Punch over the head. Once again, looking for a target, but not going to find. Keeping himself in the air instead, but the Ancient Rage not connecting in the most prominent way.
I mean, getting up into that ult was impressive for Mutu to stay alive through any of it. He had like 96 health, I think, was the lowest number he got to. Just one stray bullet could have killed him off. Luckily, he was able to live through it, at least for him, not able to live through the Dread Serpent, but it was all used for just him, and now the question is whether or not with Nuti down dead, can Kanga do anything?
Oh, bloody, bloody, bloody. Chronix, the only one alive. Na'Vi had lost a couple, even losing Anara pretty immediately after that seismic crash. But but they're the ones with 78% on the objective right now. Enlightenment to finish off Chronix. 90% still climbing. Everybody from Kanga, they're attempting to rotate through, but nobody could touch. So that's the victory in game number 1 for Na'Vi.
I admire what Kanga was able to accomplish. Again, the defense really, I think, was the strongest point, where it was just like the stand of, we can stop Na'Vi, we can't let you 4-0 us. Then using the comeback mechanic, grabbing the point, you give yourself a little bit of hope, but it's just that area of you never felt fully in control. You never really had your grip on the game that you wanted to play. Na'Vi was playing their game, and you were kind of forced to play it with them.
Even though there were the couple points that went on the side of Kanga, it wasn't anything that completely rattled Na'Vi. So going into game number 2, I'm sure they'll take just some similar strategies. If this is our game, let's try and dominate from early on within it, so that we try and just take the hope out of the situation for them.
And I expect we're going to end up seeing very, very similar stuff, as Spunky, I feel like, was giving a death stare into the camera there, because he was just patiently waiting for the next game to begin.
Yeah, he's one of those people just with such a scary,
when he puts
face
that, yeah, like
game.
his just no emotion face on, like he looks menacing.
But that's why I love when we get to see him smile and everything too, because it's just so, oh, look at Spunky being all happy. But that's going to do it for the casters for now. Let's send it back over to the desk.
Na'Vi throwing punches right on back, having what I would say, a pretty dominating performance here on Bright Marsh. Kanga just never seemed to get the same kind of mojo they had previously today in this matchup versus Na'Vi.
I felt kind of weird about like who was playing what for Kanga. There was a couple of ways it could have gone. I wanted to see Ninum play the blaster that time around, and it never ended up getting there. However, one man who has evolved into a hell of a blaster, Mutu, looks very, very strong on his Drogos. And it's crazy to see this guy from being such a hit scan legend to now coming back to Drogos to changing the way that character is kind of played, because he was really the guy who pioneered Combustible and brought that back.
Right. And I mean, it wasn't just hit scan. It was a lot of hit scan flanks. That was actually one of the criticisms that back in the fall I kind of had about Na'Vi, was like they have a really solid flank player. Are they going to be able to get Mutu to kind of expand his pool? I think the answer has been discernibly yes, especially after watching him play this Drogos throughout the weekend. It's been very impressive. He's been one of, I think, the highlight-worthy champions when it comes to Mutu's gameplay so far this weekend. He did give Andrew a shot earlier. It did not look so great, but he's been nothing but flawless on Drogos.
Yeah, it's really kind of going as expected for Na'Vi. They get a really, really solid lineup. They run one of the few 3 DPS comps that we've seen on Bright Marsh so far. It's been a lot of double tank in this tournament overall, not just on Bright Marsh. Even in that 3 DPS heavy meta that we saw in the spring, it was really a kind of a 2 tank map when it came down to Bright Marsh, when it came to the Jaguar Falls. These teams really aren't afraid to pull anything out of the hat when it comes to getting their victories, though.
I think props, too, up to Spunky for playing a solo Genos and actually kind of sticking with the solo support from Damba on the other side. I mean, a lot of really big moments where Drogos was flying up trying to channel something, and he only had 33 HP, and all of a sudden, perfectly timed Astral Mark to keep him kind of bolstering up that health pool. And again, Spunky's probably one of the more slippery supports, I think, in this tournament as far as being able to survive very tight situations.
With the amount of double tank we're seeing, frankly, I'm a little bit surprised. Wow, 23 KDA. Let's just take a moment to absorb that little statistic from Spunky, one of the actually the only 2-time world championship in Paladins thus far, and he's doing it from the support position, baby. So Grandpa Spunk making it happen for his boys. And also talking about the amount of double tank we've seen and the lack of pip that we've also seen today. I don't think we've seen him at all. And this is a composition, or excuse me, a team that I would expect to be running it a little bit. Na'Vi have creatives, and I think it frankly pairs very well with Genos. I was very impressed with Random Noob, what he was able to do with that yesterday, as well as the fact that this was a staple pick for Kanga when they had Diggy. He was really, really loving that sort of brawler pip style where he's going to play it as like a blaster DPS, but it's just been non-existent today.
Not at all, and only 6 times yesterday, 4 in-game, 2 banned. So, I mean, that's, again, one of those picks that we saw a lot throughout the spring, have not seen much of yet in the summer. But we have a long tournament ahead of us, including this set not over yet. Map number 2, Frog Isle. I remember if we go backwards, that's where the Ashe has been coming out so far lately. Yeah. It's been interesting to see her kind of returning back to map-specific metas.
Ashe, Furia, Leon, and Buck are all champions that are jumping out to me on Frog Isle. However, Buck's been banned out a lot, like you were mentioning earlier. Furia was banned out already once in this set. I don't suspect she'll make it through again. The Drogos goes early and often this tournament. Kanga learned their lesson. They let it through in Game 1. It's not going to be the case here in Game 2.
Now, because they are first pick and them taking away the Drogos, do you think that maybe we were fainted as far as what Ninum was going to be able to go here? Because you would think that you would want the Drogos early, if at all possible.
Yeah, do you want it first is the question. And
Yeah.
I think with where they are, with one game to give, really what they've been putting Ninim on is hit scan today. That's what he's been succeeding on. He played Buck here in their previous set. So I assume Kanga are looking to get him there again. Will they first pick a Buck? That is a different story.
Well, it's definitely possible. He's been a priority pick for a lot of teams so far in the first couple of days, as we're just about seeing everybody. We got to still see G2 and Envy later today, but up until then, we have seen every team so far. And man, if you're Kanga, there's this. It's so tough because I think a lot of that last match was just simply the fact that the two comps on paper were decent. They were just getting outmatched in each department.
Sniping is definitely a topic of conversation here on Frog Isle. And Kanga, they can do it, but it's awkward, I would say, for them to work into their composition. At this stage of the game, when you've got your arguably main tank player here, Joels, who has been playing mostly frontline today, he is the guy that I'm looking at to flex onto the sniper, unless it's Ninim now, because Diggy Dog didn't used to do it. Right. Ninim is so far exclusively filling in that gap on their roster. So we'll have to ask the babyface killer if he will be behind the scope or batten down the hatches on the front line.
He smiled as if he almost heard you right there.
I think so. it's that pretty hair Kanga mind connection that we got going on.
Right, that ESP, huh?
I'm helping them in the draft.
I believe it. Lian getting taken away from Na'Vi makes you think that, well, they're okay with going with the more heavy frontline comps, maybe possibly bringing out something like the Ashe in a later draft.
Khan, Furia available right now.
Exactly.
Vanessa as well. Those are the three things we're looking at probably going in the top three here. It's just a matter of what Kanga want. They have to give up a lot. We know they love Furia, and I think maybe this is Na'Vi testing them, saying, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to give up a Khan for that healer?
Apparently, yes. That seems to be the answer. And it's been interesting as well because Khan, again, he's been banned out so often, just like we had the conversation about Makoa earlier, but his win rate is actually not so great. He's sitting at, overall, 1-3 yesterday after being banned 11 times.
Young Khan. I think it's because to get him, to get Makoa, you have to usually sacrifice a lot. It's going to be the Khan Kinessa here. I can only imagine something like an Inara Cassie to be coming through next for Kanga. They love them some Cassie, but they also talked about in their interview how they quote-unquote think Furia is busted with two tanks, so I don't expect them to be running just one front line this time.
But man, if you don't get... if you're looking to run a two doubles front for Kanga, I think you have to pick up Fernando as one just to get the pressure in the back line and maybe even bust out the Ruckus as well just so you get some extra damage, but it will in fact just be a Buck and the Inara, so leaving some room to play with. Inara can do a solo front, obviously, but they can also run that in tandem with a secondary, more off frontline DPS style like a Ruckus that they probably would prefer as they're one of the more...
Cassie seems like the next choice here for Na'Vi. One of the few reliable innate anti-heals still on the board, which is going to be really, really crucial when it comes to shutting down Inara and Furia. Willow is a possibility here with Sniper on the side of Na'Vi. They could look to run that. They are a team that really hasn't been shy about running it. Or before this tournament, they run it a decent amount online. They're going to scoop up the barracks. So there's plenty of front lines still available here for Na'Vi, and it doesn't look like they will pick up the Willow, but they will take the Cassie.
I kind of like the Cassie more than the Willow just simply because you're relying on the Kinessa to hit consistent shots, and even if she's hitting them, are they fully charged? I mean, there's a lot of considerations to go into Kinessa. Obviously, she has the ability to blow people up if she gets that good line of sight.
Also, Cassie is such a better takeaway from Kanga than Willow is. I really would be surprised if we see Kanga go Willow. At this point, Fernando's still on the board if they want it, as well as they will likely need something for Ninit or Chronix. You have to imagine at this point. He played the Bomb King once. Will he do it again? And it will be the Shaw. I like this. I think Shaw's been virtually non-existent in this tournament so far, but picking that into a Cassie is never easy, but I do feel good about Chronix playing it.
And at the same point, that does provide your ability to sit a little bit longer
range.
Look
at him convincing his team right now. Look at this sly-ass smirk. He's trying to say, boys, this is the time. This is what we need when we need it. So that actually... Okay, no, they're trolling. They're not going to go for the Tyra no
support. If there were ever a game, well, I wouldn't say it would be
Alan,
this
I've seen wilder things this split. I have seen crazier stuff come out.
what, 5 damage versus 5 frontline?
I've seen 4 damage, 5 damage, 4 tanks, 5 tanks. You name it, boy. The summer split brought it.
Brings the heat.
There you
Brings
go.
the heat right into the kitchen.
go.
But Saris is that final locked-in pick. And wow, the Ashe coming in with the Inara. It's going to be interesting to see, can Ashe pull off another victory here on Frog? The question has been posed. Casters, what answer do we think we might have in store for us?
Well, I know one thing. I'm ready to see Spunky flex on some Saris.
I'm excited to see Kinessa with really no opposition. She's standing up there. You ban Strix, you grab Kinessa, you're pretty much set in terms of your long-range fight.
Pretty interesting compositions coming from both sides. And I think the Tyra, I think that Phoenix even tweeted or something about time to try and win some more, or like try to play Tyra, aka win, or something like that. So I was like, maybe that's the strat.
I imagine that that's like every now and then the team comms come up where it's like, okay, guys, look, there could be Cassie here. Or, hear me out, Tyra. What about it? Everyone says no.
The hear me out moment.
But there's going to be that one time that someone says yes. This time he's going to be on the con. Still, I mean, I guess kind of close to Tyra.
I do like Phoenix's con play. It is very clean. And then, as we've mentioned before, this is a map that really loves con, even though he's just a popular pick in general whenever he makes it through the bans. Chronix taking some early damage on the Shaolin. But it's a rotation from Ninim to try and take out Phoenix. And there's the first blood on the Buck, but Creative throws it back onto Joel's.
And immediately the damage right now that's mainly going on to Inara, I think, is making the difference. Creative's pushed out by Buck. But again, you're just standing on the side. You have this sniper. If you can get a good shot onto the Shaolin, that might make the difference. But again, it's just a little bit too late to make that big impact.
A wee bit of a clip, but not enough to take him out. So all the while, Kanga's been focusing on the objective, 60% climbing still, and with this double frontline comp, that's kind of what they've been focusing on. Lazy takes out that Buck, and if you don't have to worry about that threat just popping up behind you, it might be a tad easier. Here's some vision afforded for Na'Vi.
60% so far for Kangas. They've been able to take some control, but the shots really seem to be going back and forth between the two. I'm mainly interested to see how exactly Shaolin is going to start turning up, Buck as well. If they do turn it on and start hitting those shots a little bit harder, but that's going to be the headhunter from Kinessa, but it's actually Creatives who's the first to go down.
Is this going to be enough to have an opening for Kanga Esports to try and close this? When you take out 4 of them, then hey, that's one way to add a bit of security for your play as they pick up the first points.
Not exactly the way I envisioned that first fight going in my head, but with the way things are going, again, Kanga are the ones who had said, what was it, that Fury was quote-unquote busted with 2 front lines, so being able to have her enabling Inara, enabling Ashe, and then guess the second touch up for Buck, since he already has his own, you keep everyone on this team alive, no problem. And that makes it a lot more difficult for Na'Vi to actually find these scenarios where it's like 1-shot, 2-shot kills.
About 2 minutes on the clock right now, 50% of the push completed by Kanga, and the whole team is rotating with this objective. As Na'Vi, they stand kind of on that side that has some structures you can duck behind as the enemy team is rounding that corner. And that's why Mutsu's able to move forward now after some space has been created. Attempts to take out Shaolin, who's unseen for the time being, and heals up.
Looking for some of the hop shots, not quite finding all of the hits. Mutsu bringing out Kinessa for, I believe, the first time, if not the second time or third time, somewhere relatively low in terms of pickups. And she hasn't been finding a lot of playtime or a lot of success, I would say, in some of these shots. These headshots are nice, but they're just not quite finding the full kills.
Yeah, we'll get a couple headshots back to back, and it looks really nice and pretty. And with snipers, you don't always expect them to be the ones to finish off the kills. A lot of times, because of the distance that they have to sit, it's let me do as much damage as possible and hope that someone can clean up. But his targets were far. There's a convergence, which has some decent follow-up, but also an assert dominance from Ashe to keep herself safe from that potential kill. 2 down for Na'Vi, 1 on the side of Kanga, and a little bit of regrouping.
Now you're in this position, again, Mutsu having to fall back every single step. He can't get as aggressive, I think, as he wants on this Kinessa. And there's been several times where it's almost able to get a headshot on someone, but they just duck around cover. They just get away from him. He hasn't quite been able to eliminate Nyfuria and Shaolin off of that one shot. It's always been reactionary and just hoping for the best.
And a little bit of zoning right now. Joel's with this angle where he's not even getting very heavy hits on everybody, but just enough to add that level of harassment. Nice recovery of that fight from this Khan, but eventually goes down to Joel's.
I love the body blocks, but again, you just kind of put yourself in danger. The shots are still going this way. Buck in the 1v1 versus Knessa. Honestly, I feel like I know the way this one goes, and Mutu is not going to be happy about it. Lazy the next one on the chopping block, and Nim Nim does not care.
The short-range fight doesn't do very well for Knessa when you're going against a Buck. So Kanga push this through for the 2-0.
Definitely not the start I think Na'Vi not only expected, but were prepared for. Now they're going to be able to come into it, and they will have comeback mechanic, but there's only so much that can really afford for you. They didn't have a lot of point control during that last fight, so this is going to make a huge difference for them. Coming into it, Mutu, as well as having Cassie, just Knessa Cassie impact needs to be turned up a little bit more. Buck impact needs to turn down a little bit if Na'Vi want to find some success.
It just looked like in that first round, Na'Vi, they never really found, obviously they didn't find an opening towards a point, but it didn't look like there was much of a very direct strategy to do so. It's also waiting for, okay, once we get a couple kills, that'll be our opening. But then as soon as First Blood went the other way, and then they weren't really getting that tremendous leg up that you would hope for off of the sheer skill versus skill, then Kanga was able to run away with that objective.
Going for the ult, immediately gets rid of Inara, and that's usually a good way to start off the fight. You immediately get rid of a frontline, although you lose one of your own, and Lazy is having a lot of trouble staying alive in a lot of these scenarios. Bowling Ball really being his savior.
Taking down Nim, though, very important for Na'Vi, because that Buck was adding way too much pressure the last time around. I love how you don't even have to worry about dunking Inara with Khan's over or his ultimate, because she doesn't have any mobility to come back. You're just like, I can send you nice and far.
She's just gone.
Oh, tried to put down the assert dominance, but Mutu clipped before they could actually hit the ground. 54% to 27, a convergence on the sideline, but it's just an even trade right now, 1 for 1, with Na'Vi still ahead on the actual objective.
Chronic's going to be able to hit that last shot as Mutu jumped up to hit one. That ult going to be completely negated by that death, and now he's in a position to be able to pop the Heat Haze and get aggressive. Looking for Lazy. They're going to be able to find him.
Finally finishes that off onto him. 78% for Kanga. They're back into this. And you can see that Phoenix is forcing himself back onto the objective, the only frontliner around to put himself in that presence, but Creatives gets taken away on the side. And how long are you supposed to keep yourself alive, especially when there's a Buck Wild right on the side, right into your shield, and you are donezo. So Kanga with this 99% feeling pretty good, but enough time for Na'Vi to respawn.
And right now with NM's positioning, he can get aggressive on Mutu as well as Creatives, both kind of locked down. The healing going to keep him alive in the fight. The wall going to be saving them a little bit, but that is going to be enough. Mutu gets a couple kills.
And with that 97% overtime continuing once more, 3 down for Kanga. A dome shield directly onto the objective. Nudie attempting to escape, but unable to do so. And the rest of the team is punished. This overtime finishes, and it's in the favor of Na'Vi.
Dangerously close, but not close enough. It's like that shape where it's like, you got a little bit of a cut, but it wasn't anything too bad. It heals up, no problem. Na'Vi are going to be able to take that point, potentially tie up the game right here. Definitely getting a lot cleaner as time goes on. Creatives with a double kill right there and just looking for the next target.
That capture was with comeback mechanic, though, man.
Yeah.
And it was still 99 to 99. Yeah.
A little close.
Imagine where that would have been if it was just even footing. Jeez. But right now, just the nature of it and the way that last fight went down, able to make a lot of progress on this push. Lazy, speaking of push, he's pushed way up at this moment, putting his turret down to keep the lockdown. Joel's couldn't escape the turret. He couldn't escape any of the hits, Creatives especially, and Na'Vi continue forward.
That 1500 shield he's getting from Rocket Boots is just insane in what it is providing Lazy in terms of his aggression. He doesn't have to worry too much. As long as Rocket Boots is online, he is going to be safe, being able to keep himself alive just like that. Still getting a little bit too close for comfort, but still having a huge impact and a huge distraction factor. Look how far that payload goes.
He was there a lot longer than anyone wants him to be. So even though he dies, yes, he got a lot of value prior, and with that itemization coming online as well. Still over a minute that they have to be able to complete this push. As far as the ultimates go, everything up except for the dome shield. But on the opposite end, it's only assert dominance that's Waiting a little bit. Another grab in. Another buck wild. Shots from afar from Mutu, and waiting to see the results.
Chronix here has gotten enough credits to get Wrecker 3 as well as Morale Boost 1. You're going to have to Heat Haze up a lot more often, but shields on the side of Na'Vi will not last long while he is looking at them. And that's something that is always kind of the discussion. Do you stop at Wrecker 2, then go for your next item? It's going to give you 150%, or do you go for that next step and just eviscerate shields? He went for the option of eviscerate. So far, it's working out for him.
There's just so much shield potential because of all these things, whether it's through cards or just the abilities of those champions. A couple kills in the favor of Na'Vi right now. It's good to be able to focus those down and not have to worry about it as much.
A little bit of questionable decision-making, I want to say, there from Na'Vi, but they're still picking off members of Kanga in every small engagement. Here, there, left, right, up, down, every single one of them going the way they want it to. Now they're back on the payload. Even with 5 seconds left, they're pretty close and pretty open to push this one in.
It looks like on the side of Kanga, they're not even going to try to come through just yet.
Ouch.
Last minute, Nuti flies on in, but they were just a little too staggered. For a second.
Like, it was actually one of those moments where if you blinked at the right time, it looked as though, like, she was just kind of burned into the map.
Right.
Because that's about as long as she was there.
It wasn't very long. It was a short stay or visit.
Those are the kinds of shots that Mutu, I want to say, hadn't necessarily been missing a lot of, but there's been moments where it's just like, if that had just been a headshot, this fight would have been completely different for you. Those are the kinds of shots I'm looking for going into this. I mean, at 9, 4, and 6, he's doing phenomenal. He has a lot of damage coming down to it. Not top, but he's still going to be sitting in the top 4, but he could be doing so much more. I mean, look at the fact that he's right now competing with Lazy, which admittedly Lazy's been pretty aggressive, but he's competing with Lazy on the barrack for that damage, and I feel like he could just be doing so much more. The potential damage is a lot higher.
And that's the thing, you can just do whatever the minimum is needed to win the game. If they win it, then it's like, okay, cool, miss shots, whatever. But looking forward, some of those could have been a bit cleaner in their execution. And that's one way to do it. Just smack right into the face of Chronix to punish him for appearing at all. Assert dominance into the middle. Tried to clip out before, but luckily Ash was able to land, and Kanga, off the back of that, get some percentage on the points.
And yesterday we were looking at Mutu as having not quite the same performance we thought we would have seen out of him on Androxus. This time the Kinessa's starting to clean it up. Not going to have the best of luck up against the Buck, but still going to be able to hold his own for a little bit in terms of the shots. But the aggression from Kanga right now is just all full force.
Dome Shield Scout starting to collapse from this opposite side. Chronix gets clipped once more. And that's a double kill for Creatives. The Convergence was also used in a defensive manner earlier, so that's not even online. Kanga lose 4, though, so that 90% stopped in the meantime as Na'Vi begin to pick things back up.
Being able to clear him out. And that was, I want to say, just a good old-fashioned fight for him, right? That was exactly the way things needed to go, the way they wanted them to go, the way that draft is supposed to work. And then the entire time, Ash is over on the side, distracted by Phoenix, trying to fight as best they can. But also, I know, specifically, did not have a chance to really stand on this Inara. His health bar just plummeted once he was left alone.
Chronix popped the Heat Haze in an attempt to bring this back towards them at that 99. Overtime is continuing. Another smack onto Chronix, though, from Mutu, throwing up the shields. Lazy is right in the middle of the action, facing off against the Inara. Luckily, Phoenix makes a rotation as well to add some protection, which allows Lazy to turn his sights over to Joel's, who goes down. 99 on both sides, 3 eliminated from Kanga, and Na'Vi with the double kills for many. Capture point number 3.
I'm so glad we got to watch that from Lazy's perspective just because of the way he was playing it. It was very twitchy, but he's getting shots left and right. He's dealing damage to 4 different people throughout that entire fight to make sure that his team is getting that little bump wherever they need it, making sure that someone's staying just low enough. And it was that kind of play where I feel like only Barrett can really afford as a front line. Most others are not going to play that way, and being able to see that was just a different experience.
Frontline can be a very scary place.
Yeah.
You're often in the middle.
You're in the
of
middle. You
everything.
literally have to 180 if you want to see everybody.
Nice and low as Barrick is, just looking around. Oh, okay. Let me focus on this target. Another one. And that's the interesting thing is sometimes teams can be taken aback by not having target focus. What he did was kind of the opposite in a good way, right? Of I need to try and control this fight from multiple perspectives. And speaking of control, a dome shield way downtown near the spawning zone. Even Nard directly below it. Another grab, another throw, facing off against this Buck. but some nice protection from Phoenix.
Khan has a lot of damage in hand if played properly, and Phoenix has been doing it so far so good, at least keeping a lot of pressure put down on Kanga, keeping him to the side. Unfortunately, the team's been split up for a long time, and I think that's really kind of the downfall there. You had one fight going on past the payload capture point and one going on the side kind of along with the payload, and because the team was so split up, it kind of gave Kanga the advantage they needed. They're relatively close together, tight-knit with where they were defending. They didn't have to worry too much, so now Na'Vi have to group up and come back at it one more time.
Right, he had some weird moments before. Oh, there's another convergence. Pulls in a couple. Buck in some trouble. Hops down onto low ground just to run into creatives. But Rhino's got the double kill. 3 eliminated, 4 eliminated on Na'Vi. And that's basically team white right there. A triple kill from Joel's on Ash.
Respawn's coming through, but again, now you have 30 seconds to regroup and try to get back. And with Frog Isle being the size that is, 30 seconds will be plenty of time to get back there. But you also have to break Kanga's defensive line in that process. Right now, a lot of interesting slash lines. Kanga has been dying almost as much as they've been picking up these kills. Chronic's the one that I say is probably the worst off, 3 and 11. As of right now, the Shaolin has been doing his job, though, because those shields do not stay up long at all.
We've seen him get picked off quite a few times from either Creatives or Mutu. Both of them have been finding the Shaolin whenever he's not in stealth and just saying, okay, well, you're back to the grave, which is where those 11 kills come from. But when he's up, he has been blasting through the shields. Right now, overtime is settled. Na'Vi still on the offensive, and Mutu evidence that they're attempting to move forward.
Now being able to get a lot of healing. This is where Saris is going to come in handy. Unfortunately, that is where she's going to fall apart. Only being able to heal one target at a time. Phoenix got healed up to full and then immediately was dead by the time Spunky was done healing the next person.
So Kanga end up pushing this to a 3-3. And they're just 1 point away from being eliminated or 1 point away from tying up this best-of-3 set. And that was a really nice play from Jules on this Ash.
And this one feels a lot better so far from Kanga than the last one. The last one, it felt like they were struggling to kind of keep control. Even when they were able to find a defense, it was just kind of like, man, we are pouring out of the base, hoping for the best. As of right now, they have been shutting down Chronix, not letting him do too much. Nudie has been in this area where he's getting a lot of healing done from the backline, but he can't really show his face for fear of the fact that that's 17, 8, and 14 Mutu is going to find a headshot.
That would hurt a lot right into the face. But here we go. Last point of the game. Whoever captures the objective first will win it. Lots of COD 3 online. You're in that late game, so itemization looking pretty secure. Ultimates, a couple of them nearly up for Na'Vi that aren't currently. Phoenix taking Joel's out immediately. Super important. And then also boxing it out with this buck, forcing him back to the rest of the team.
And again, corralling Kanga away from the point, putting them all together, which makes it easier for Creatives Mutu to then start picking them off one by one once they show their head. Unfortunately, it also makes it a little bit easier to regroup, so you are going to have to hold against this team. But you still have 4 ults under your belt to be able to do so, and honestly, using Khan at the very beginning makes it a lot easier. Now Headhunter, something, Scout even, being able to come through can make the difference in your fight.
Yeah, that was the only ult they'd used. And speaking of ults, here's another one, the Inflamed. Heightening everything for Kanga. A dome shield right in the center of the action. Nice shots coming from Chronix with this heat haze, but gets punished by Mutu again because of that momentary visibility. But Kanga still climbing 45% as Ozrhino's made his way back towards the objective, but keeps getting chunked down.
Mutu playing that brilliantly. Lazy going to be dancing on the point one more time, and they're in this position where they are just pelting the damage down onto the point and going to be able to kill off several members of Kanga.
99%, and Na'Vi take it, meaning they move on within this bracket. And that face that you saw Creatives make right there at the end was, yes, it was more relief. Like, oh, finally, we closed it out after that back and forth battle.
I mean, I feel like that was closer than they really thought that match was going to be. It's one of those teams, especially with the changes that have happened at Kanga, that maybe you kind of glance over the fact that the players have been playing phenomenally for this LAN. They have been doing incredible stuff, and being able to take Na'Vi 3-3 in that one and then up to 4-2 for the first map, it keeps it close. Even though Na'Vi are able to pull ahead, which is what most people expected, it wasn't anywhere near as clean as they wanted it.
Another one of those situations where, yes, it's a 2-0 as far as the set goes, but in-game tells a different story. And that means Kanga, when they're dropping down into the lower portion of the bracket, they still have hope for pushing through that, maybe re-meet some of these teams.
And they're looking a lot stronger than I think their performance earlier against Confiesta kind of hinted at, and that's, I think, one of those things. Now being able to see how they fare against Na'Vi gives them a little bit more hope, I think, going through that lower bracket. bracket and beating a lot of those other teams.
And then Na'Vi, when you're in the top half, they needed this, especially after yesterday, things not going so great. You know, they want to set the tone so that they can try and set them up for a similar performance as the last time they were here in Atlanta. But that's going to do things for us over here in the casters booth. You can see that they're having a grand old time, just acknowledging each other after a tremendous match indeed. But let's find out what the desk has to say.
A very close matchup, to be completely candid. Very, very close. My biggest thing that I look at the disparity in those two teams, it was the Shaolin not performing all that well and the Knessa performing very well.
He definitely did a lot of damage, right? But there was the moments of, Shaolin can just poke all game at a tank, probably is where most of that damage was originating from. But the lack of plays made in Heat Haze, we talked about, it's really tough to play Shaolin into a good Cassie when she's just able to save her scout for that moment and completely shut down 80% of your playmaking potential. That sucks, and that's why you see this super, super big lack of killing blows from Chronix's Shaolin, despite the amount of damage he was able to do. Creatives, on the other hand, he had some seriously clutch moments on this Cassie.
And I think with the Shaolin being in check by the long-range presence from Mudu, but also having that scout available.
This moment right here is huge.
So big. Again, 30 HP, somehow gets his way back into this with 74, and is able to dodge and get 2 kills. He eventually does fall, but regardless, the fact that he's able to live for so long with such little HP.
You know, that was probably the make-or-break moment right there.
Has to be.
To shut down the inflamed Kanga team fight before it even had a chance to get off the ground. That was the biggest moment, and thankfully Fnatic taught Na'Vi what that pain felt like yesterday. So now when Kanga tried to bring it out, they were dominating early, and I think they needed to win this game quickly if they were going to win it. But clutch plays like that from creatives would allow them to drag it out and bring it back in Navi's favor.
And even Mudu, again, we talked about his presence on hit scan targets. Well, now he's using the Knessa. He's got himself a very nice stat line, even though he doesn't make he's not getting double and triple kills all over the place. He's providing so much extra pressure, which again frees up the Cassie to be more mobile.
Absolutely, the Mudu on the sniper. That was a big moment for them. Healing numbers about equalized, which just speaks to Spunky's greatness yet again. This Furia in a double tank composition. The fact that Spunky can even have a hope of keeping up is really impressive. Mutu hitting some shots on stealth target. That one right there.
Silly.
I'm just wondering. See, that's the thing, though. It's like I looked up. I'm like, all right, Cassie had scout. She didn't use. I always, when I see a shot like that, I just assume it's because of scout. But that one wasn't. That's just wild.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy's insane. And even that one right there, again, on Shaw, just continuing to punish anytime he had the ability to. 18 and 8 overall. Again, on a map that it's so small, but again, it's so sniper friendly for not getting punished or pushed, and it didn't really seem like he was getting punished or pushed hardly ever that game.
It was tough, right? Nim tried his best to get back there when it was time. But as the game went on, Na'Vi got better and better at absorbing, albeit a very predictable go button in the Fury and Flame. They knew it when it was happening. You saw Lazy just start to dome shield himself and other teammates. You saw good convergences. I think pulling in 2 people. Every time we caught one on camera, it was at least 2 Kanga members pulled in, and that's just more credit to Spunky in the front line of Na'Vi.
So as this tournament progresses, if we see Furia getting maybe possibly banned out more, do you see Saris as that next support pick that might pop up?
Maybe. Spunky's the only one that does it time and time again, event after event. Saris is only in the pocket of Spunky. No one else really brings her out, for my money.
All right. Well, that's a close call. Saris, though, looking strong here in Frog. I've seen a couple instances, but these teams will be going on to another round, one in the winner's bracket, one in the loser's bracket. We'll take a look to see where they will be facing up against. We've got Kanga again. Since they got into that second round of the upper bracket, they will be awaiting the winner of Armada and Clown Fiesta. And then beyond that, you're going to see Na'Vi awaiting the winner of our final match of the game, which will be G2 versus Envy. Again, a lot of people questioning, well, G2 just won the last championship yesterday. Why are they playing up against Envy again? You got to remember back to the Spring Masters. They did not have the greatest performance ever, losing to SSG in the second round in the losers bracket. So that seeding is kind of representative of that, which is, again,
good for G2 because they're a whole nother animal right now. And I think it's going to make their run through the bracket. They sandbagged in spring so they could get an easy run in the summer.
Is that what it was?
I see what you're doing here, G2. And I mean, whoever unfortunately loses that matchup has to go against the winner of probably Space Station or Wolfpack, which we assumed, or probably Space Station if history is going to tell us anything, which is unfortunate for Space Station because that's a tough matchup.
Again.
To have to run into Burrito in the first round and then to lose loser of G2 Envy in the second to send somebody home.
Right. At the same point, though, you look at G2, which, they caught so much momentum after the end of yesterday. They have a tough run against Envy. They pull out the 3 straight to pull it back. They get the 4 straight against Fnatic. I almost think this is a better thing. You want them to continue to play with that high energy, to force them to play hard. They're not getting an easy game against any PGS team. They got to go up against Envy again. But let's take it back to another PPL team, Na'Vi. They get themselves a win. How do they feel after that?
Well, guys, congratulations on your victory after that match. And was it a bit closer than you anticipated for it to be?
Closer, I guess, yeah. But at the same time, we are still coming back from a 4-1 loss against Fnatic, which was hard to deal with. And at least getting a win on the board, gives us a good bounce back, I would say.
So after yesterday, was coming into today kind of one of those moments where it was do or die? You had to win this, or were you feeling a little bit more confident coming into this next LAN that you did it last time, you lost on Wednesday and were able to win the whole thing, so you're feeling kind of similar to that?
If you can make the same run, why not? You got to start somewhere, and the last time we started with winning against Kanga, so why not now again, right?
I want to talk about just in that last game, there was a moment where we got to see from your perspective Lazy the entire time and just being in the center of the fight as the frontliner, but having to focus on so many targets. And then while Phoenix was on the outside doing that cleanup as well. So how do you keep your mind so focused when there's so much happening around you during that capture?
I actually have no idea. I mean, I can't even remember what was going on. It was just that we won the first game, and then the second game we were pretty chill, and the more the game went on, the more stress is started to happen. And I just started, I don't know how to answer that question, honestly. It's just something that happens, I guess. You just need a lot of awareness when you play point tank, because you have to keep aware of the point. At the same time, they're not gonna cap, but at the same time, you also wanna juggle back and forth to make sure you don't die, you could say.
So for that last game, what would you say was the big turning point for you, where Kanga looked like they were actually going to end up finding success, but you guys were able to grip the game right back into your favor?
Just I think it was getting one pick. Oh yeah, I was getting one pick, and then the momentum just drives us through there. It's you have the man advantage, and it was just looking for that extra kill. And when we found it, it became really hard for them to come back, knowing especially that they had no tanks to do it.
So did Nick just not believe in Spunky's ability to be bodyguard on his own right now?
I guess.
And didn't feel
I don't know what's going on.
Keep the boys loose, you know what I'm saying?
The more the better.
Well, we'll give you a moment to relax. It looks like you're having some nice massages over there. Maybe we'll veer away from the camera for that one. So thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thank you.